Okay. Well, hello there. Uh, it's not been a really good week for me, guys, so I don't know how long this is going to be, but we'll wing it like I always do and see where we go. Just a little bit of a progress report. I'm rolling along on editing Wanderer. I should hopefully have that done. Hopefully, not too much longer. I'm about let's see, about a third, 2/3 to half to 2/3 of the way through it. So hopefully, I'll get through this first edit, get everything updated, and then I'll be able to get back to first draft writing, and then 2 months later back to editing. Um, that's really all I've been focusing mostly on that since last Sunday to get Brianna and the getting ahead of myself. um, Wanderer edited. But now that leads me into one of the things I wanted to talk about tonight: the long and tortured history of Brianna and the Three. Sorry if it's backwards. Um, Brianna and the Three almost never saw publication. I started writing it back when I worked for uh, Lowe's, and that was 99 to 2001. When I started writing it, it wasn't connected to any other stories. Brianna wasn't related to anybody yet. I don't even think she had a last name at that point. Um, it was always a kidnapping story, but I didn't know exactly who Brianna was. And then along the way, I figured out, okay, she's related to characters in another story. Yes, yet another one that I have to get back to. I know, the story that I have to get back to. Who'd have thought? Anyway, um, it's I figured out who she was related to, and how she fit into this organization. Now, a little bit of background: the history of Earth up to this point, uh, approximately a century, almost a century um, before Brianna and the Three. One of Brianna's ancestors, her great great grandmother, I believe it is, was part of a group that brought about uh, sweeping society and governmental changes. Up to that point, Earth had been a theocracy, not a very strict theocracy. There were, if you wanted to believe something else than the state religion, you could, not a problem. But um, that led to a military organization known as the Angel Corps. That remained intact after the government was overthrown, not overthrown, just remade into more of a constitutional republic, kind of like what the U.S. is supposed to have. It doesn't, but we won't go into that. We won't get into politics on this one. And into that world is Brianna and her family, the family Pandora Crow, because as after the events of the previous story, which is yet to be written, um, her grandmother Entendre and her great great grandmother Entendre and great great grandfather Matthias decided that once they got married, um, as they had kids and then grandchildren, great grandchildren, the firstborn daughter, would have the last name Pandora. Firstborn boy would have the last name Crow. And that's how we ended up with Brianna Pandora and her brother Sean Crow. More about Sean in a minute. And once I got that figured out, the story kind of rolled along pretty well. It kind of went kind of fast for a first draft, which I found kind of surprising, but it rolled along pretty well. But the thing is, it was a first draft, and as Hemingway said, the first draft of everything is shit. So I wrote it, I finished it, I put it down, and I moved on to other things. It kind of languished for a bit, and I would think about, oh yeah, I really should get Brianna and the three ready, and then I would be distracted by something else. Also, over time, I would finally get around to actually looking at it, print it out, read it, and oh my god, it was worse than I thought. The plot line was good. It's just it kind of failed in execution. At one point, I thought I'd be able to include it in Campfire Stories. It was originally supposed to be the last story in Campfire Stories, but I decided that it needed too much work, and so I kept it separate, and excuse me, I kept it separate, and vowed one day that I would either get it ready to be published or I would forget it ever existed. Excuse me. So I did kind of what I just finished with Wanderer. I went back to the beginning and just rewrote the whole thing, beginning to end. Cleaned up a lot of the language. Had the scene starting to make more sense, and got it finished, and then edited it again and again and again. This is the one story that took the most edits before I had it ready to go. This took 8 edits. Normally 4, maybe 5 is about average for one of the novellas. Brianna and the 3 took 8 edits. And along the way, I kept refining things, kind of nailing things down a little bit more, making the world just a little bit more real, adding things, going a bit more, a bit deeper into description, a bit more into just making the world try and feel more real. Down to mentioning things like there's a sequence that takes place on board a luxury cruise ship, describing just what the corridors look like and the fine detailing, just little things like that. Also, finally realizing that some things about Brianna. She always had some insecurities. And I know many will be shocked by that. A female character with insecurities. How dare I? Yeah, how dare I? Why would I want to make a character human? Why would I want to do that? So I did give her some insecurities. She basically has my neurosis. She doubts herself. She questions herself. She has some insecurities about herself, and she questions herself sometimes. There are a couple of points in the story where she second guesses herself. I shouldn't have done that. I shouldn't have reacted that way, as any person would. So, and also along the way, I kind of decided she was bisexual. Why? Why not? It doesn't have a direct bearing on the story. It does come up once or twice, but it's not something about which the story centers. It's something that informs the character, but it's not the thrust of the story. The thrust of the story is finding out who kidnapped this person and saving her. And I was also thinking about what if mythological stories were actually real? And that's where the three came from. In the book, it takes place on a chunk of it takes place on a planet known as Lol Theta, and it has a small research colony on it, a small research outpost and a small colony, and it also has a native species. Part of the science team are there to study the natives, known as the Takeshren, and I wanted to make them very insectal. I think I kind of pulled it off, humanoid insects. And they have it's believed to be part of their mythology, that the Takeshren are protected by the three mythological warriors who protect the righteous and strike down the evil. And the evil being defined as anybody who is not known by the Takeshren. And as Brianna finds out in the story, the three are very real. And how they work is kind of insidious, finding your insecurities and making them worse. And that was very interesting to me. I kind of liked looking into that. I might do something like that again. I have another energy race called the Dolwa, which play rather much into a bright symmetry, which I might do next week. But yeah, it's a good story. It took a lot of work, but Brianna and the Three is a good story. I like the way it turned out. I like Brianna's personality, her character, her behavior. I like the way she turned out. And there might be another story about her. I don't have anything planned right now. I've got too many other things that I'm trying to get through, trying to get finished, before I want to start anything new. So there's Brianna has a future. I just don't know when I'll be able to get to it. But for right now, it's Brianna and the Three. Going to keep it a little short this week, guys. Like I said, it has not been a fun week. Brianna and the Three and all the books, you can find them in print on demand and ebook. The links will be down there. If you do buy one of the books, please go back and put a review, good, bad, or indifferent. I don't care. It all helps. Also, all my social media links are down there as well. So that's I guess that's it for tonight. Take care, be well, and remember, we are each of us the heroes of our own stories and the villains of someone else's. See you next week, guys. Bye.